And we're watching Cava earnings. They seem like they reported very strong results after that much hyped IPO. I know, Brooke, you've been following this company very closely. What's the latest here?
Yeah, big story here. Record levels of profitability and revenue for the Mediterranean fast casual chain. Here's really what you need to know. Revenue coming in, as you could see there, to $172.9 million. That's compared to $105.3 million in the year prior. Net income here reported of $6.5 million. Now that's compared to a net loss of $8.2 million in the prior year. Shares here jumping in after hours trading off of these results. And in addition to that, same store sales, really a big winner here, up 18.2% for the quarter at Cava, driven by higher menu prices as well as traffic growth. We saw traffic growth in the last quarter up 10%. And so Cava really perhaps making headway here in a different IPO story than what we've seen in the past. Of course, their competitors, as you mentioned before, Sweetgreen, Chipotle, as well as other fast casual chains. They also have net new openings that are also driving awareness as well as growth. And investors really seem to be liking these results here.
Yeah, Brooke, it's not necessarily like an entirely fair comp because the companies are at a little bit of different stages, right? But if you pull up that Cava earnings again and you take a look at some of those numbers, I mean, you look at Cava's revenue compared to what Sweetgreen posted in the quarter. So Cava revenue at $172 million. Sweetgreen had revenue of $152 million in the same quarter. Cava, positive EPS of 21 cents. Sweetgreen, negative EPS of 24 cents. At some point, you're looking at two similar companies, right? They're probably attracting a relatively similar customer, people like us in the city going and looking for lunch.
We went yesterday.
Maybe someone going for dinner. We did go to Cava yesterday. I do want to talk about my bowl. But I think overall, you see Cava growing that top line. I mean, that's what you want to see out of this company, a company that just IPO'd. You want to see surprise to the upside when it comes to revenue, when it comes to sales.
Yeah, and I mean, that same store sales beat 18%. That is significant. And I remember Chipotle, which broke a couple weeks ago, they missed on that same store sale estimate. And that contributed to a stock loss at the end of the day. So I feel like that's increasingly important with a lot of these fast casual chains. We'll see if that momentum can continue, because I know, Josh, you and I, we were debriefing after our Cava experience.
Long line.
We were on the ground reporting. There was not a long line, but I wouldn't say that was the biggest take. Yeah.
I was very stressed in line. There are so many different options. I wasn't sure what I wanted. I just picked a bunch of stuff, probably over-committed on the ingredients. Well, that was something that you brought up.
Well, they opened 16 new stores in the last quarter, and I'm just curious how many new stores you can open in similar areas and sort of overpack a city like New York, or are you just going to expand into other areas where you aren't? Because personally, I felt after eating the food, it was good. It was a little filling for lunch.
Heavy.
And it's a different kind of spicy that I don't know if I'm having once a week.
Right.
Or more than once a week, right? Is probably ideally what they want. And they have a variety of flavors, but it's just so different for me that I don't know if I'm going to keep going back on a consistent basis. So when you think about the long-term trajectory, that's something that interests me.
Well, let me tell you this. So right now, diving into new and existing markets is certainly a key strategy for them. And based upon what they're saying here, their full year 2023 outlook, they expect to open between 65 to 70 new locations this year. So that's a pretty substantial jump, a pretty substantial long-term growth strategy. They also plan to open thousands in the next decade. And so really what they're trying to get here is that consumer that maybe hasn't had this before. And a lot of analysts on the street are ultimately comparing it to Chipotle, where there was, an untapped potential for a Mexican fast casual chain. I almost said Sweetgreen. Cava really looking to do the same here, really lean into that untapped potential, perhaps in new markets as well.
Yeah, and the Cava bowl, for my bowl at least, was $20. I thought
what did you add, Alex?
She added
double
avocado.
Protein, add the avocado.
I think there was two different kinds of meat.
Mine averages out about 30.
I want half
13.
Chicken, half spicy lamb, but I didn't do a
but
double.
Those both costed more.
No, I think that double
they costed more. I was paying attention on purpose. They definitely both cost more.
My bowl is $20.
I just got chicken and it was $15.
I know,
right. Yeah, mine average is $13.
Well, I like a lot of stuff in my bowl, but it made me think about the inflation picture overall, because it's interesting now. I know you closely watch the food index and the CPI print, and dining out, it's been coming down, but at a much slower pace than grocery. And what's interesting is that these grocery chains now are competing with restaurants, especially with their prepared food sections. And I support the Whole Foods prepared food line. I mean, you can get some good stuff there, and probably at a much cheaper cost than if you went out to
you can get
a
it
restaurant.
from a lot of places for like 12 or 13 bucks, which at some point, like, time cost of money to just not cook for the 30 minutes or hour where you also clean. Like, 12 or 13 bucks ain't bad for dinner these days.
Right.
So, like, I think a lot of people are looking at that option. You wonder how the grocery stores are going to sort of build that out, right, and continue to do that.
We're certainly seeing food prices away from home jump higher year over year than food prices at home. And as you noted, on the fast food side of things, these companies are really trying to introduce limited time offerings, innovation. We saw Taco Bell out with testing 2 new chicken options today. So really looking to bring in consumers based on these limited time offerings or these new items, as consumers have to make that choice about where they're going to get the best value.